Welcome to Resilience and Resolve with Lance Drury.
This is Resilience and Resolve. I'm Evan Mack. I'm here with tax attorney Lance Drury. Today we're diving into the tax consequences of gambling, whether at a casino, online, or even in that crypto. What counts as income, what's deductible, and what happens if you don't report it? Lance Drury, for all the gamblers and the bettors and the crypto people out there, you got to give them this information, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great, Evan. How's yourself?
Listen, we're good. We're good. It's hot where I'm at right now, 96 degrees, 80% humidity. So I'm hiding inside the house, but we're good.
Well, I tell you, it's about that hot here. And I think by the weekend, 250 million people are going to be affected by this heat. I go to New Jersey Wednesday, and I think New York City is going to be 101 degrees, which is the highest it's been since the 1880s.
My goodness gracious. Listen, Lance, you better cool off. Bring your cool jacket.
I will.
So when it comes to this, when it comes to IRS and gambling, though, how does the IRS define gambling income? You know, like how must it be reported?
Well, here's the thing. What's reported to the IRS is only your winnings. Your losses are not reported to the IRS. However, what you can do if you're a gambler is you can go to the casino, and most of them, you know, if you're a regular, they will keep track of your losses for you. So if you ever get audited or there's any question about whether or not your return is correct, you can go in and prove to them through your losses that you really didn't make any money through the gambling. But the IRS, I have to tell you, really frowns upon gamblers. It is hard to get a deal for somebody who is gambling. I tell these people, you have got to stop gambling. I had a guy, he owned a number of McDonald's franchises. He made all this money. I think his accountant may have made a mistake, but when he sold the McDonald's, he had all this money, and guess what? He gambled it all away on the boats. And, you know, I think his liability was like $2 million.
Wow.
And when this first happened, his wife didn't know. Well, then she found out. Well, then I couldn't represent both of them anymore. She got everything in the divorce. He had nothing left, so he didn't pay a dime back to the IRS. But I also had another woman, and it took me years to get her an agreement. This woman was probably close to 80 years old and was still working because she had gambled away $250,000 in 2 consecutive years of her retirement savings.
Wow.
So she was continuing to work due to this. And, you know, the IRS didn't, and, you know, they're not going to consider your gambling losses in determining your ability to pay this back. So people have to just quit gambling before we can get them any type of agreement. I hate to say this, but, you know, you can only drink so much. You can only do so many drugs. But those people can sit in front of those machines and gamble away their life savings all day long, day after day.
Casinos are not going to stop you from giving you their money. They're not. They're not going to stop you from doing that.
Really, Evan?
Last time I checked, last time I was in Vegas, they don't stop anybody.
No, they're not going to stop.
But with that being said, though, why do you said they frown upon it? The IRS frowns upon gambling, but what's the specific reason why they do?
Because you're not paying your taxes. That's money you could have paid your taxes with. So if you owe the IRS $50,000, you've gambled away $250,000. You should have been sending that money to the IRS. At least that's how they look at it, and I don't blame them. I mean, you know, that's why they're hard on gamblers. You just got to go cold turkey for a long time, or you're not going to get a resolution with the IRS.
What's a W-2G form, and when are casinos required to issue those?
Well, I believe that's the income that's derived from your winnings on the boat. And anytime you have any winnings on the boat, they're required to send that in to the IRS. But like I said earlier, they don't report any of your losses. So you have to find all that out for yourself. It's very similar. I've had cases in U.S. tax court where the IRS said, you made all kinds of money on stock transactions. You owe us all this money. So guess what? They reported the winnings, but they didn't report the losses. So we went in, We showed him the losses. The guy didn't owe any money. But that happens a lot. They'll report the winnings, but not the losses. That's incumbent upon you to prove that to the satisfaction of the IRS.
You talk about not reporting the losses though, but can those losses be deducted though? Is there any scenario where they can be deducted?
Yeah, they can be deducted, for your present year because you really didn't have any winnings. If you spent all that, they're still going to frown upon it and you probably won't get a deal. But yeah, you're entitled to only being taxed on the monies you made. It's like being self-employed. You bring in all this revenue. Well, the revenue's not is what's taxed. It's the difference between your revenue and your business expenses, because you're entitled to deduct those business expenses as well. But still, you shouldn't be gambling if you got IRS problems, because, they're just not going to work with you to get any type of resolution with them.
But what's some of the consequences though of not reporting your gambling winnings? Like you're winning, you're like the IRS doesn't know how much money you're making. You're winning a whole bunch of stuff at a casino and you don't report it. What's a consequence?
Well, then they probably will audit you, because those winnings are going to be reported to the IRS. And so when they go in and compare your tax return to what's been reported by the casino, now you're going to be audited. And those audits, I have to tell you, audits are time consuming. They're costly. If there's a problem, and they can do like 3 years or more at a time. And if they have problems with 1 year, they're going to open that audit to another year. So some of those audits can take a lot of time and drain you of a lot of money. So you want to stay away from the audits.
Go ahead, man.
You want to stay away from the audits.
Yeah. So the best way to stay away from the audit is not just paying your taxes, but reporting your winnings from gambling.
Well, for everything. And so here's what we do. People, this happens all the time. People have their W-2s, and sometimes they don't get their 1099s from their financial institutions. They cash something out of a 401k or whatever, stock transactions. So they send us stuff, but we have to do our due diligence. So what we do is we go into the IRS website and we pull their wage and income transcripts prior to preparing their tax returns, because if you leave some of that income off, and it doesn't matter if you were given a 1099 or not, you still have an obligation to report that income. And so we do it to avoid any penalties for, not reporting your tax return properly and accurately.
What about crypto or online betting? Does that change how the tax, the tax treatment from the IRS?
Well, I have to tell you, Evan, I'm not very familiar at all with the crypto. We've never had a crypto case with this firm. Now, The IRS changed their forms a few years ago. When they had their financial statement, it did not include crypto. Those forms now include you having to list all your cryptocurrency. But we have over 1,000 clients right now, and we've probably helped 10 to 15,000 people over the years. And I can't recall one case that involved cryptocurrency.
Well, see, what about when you unreport your winnings? People, there's one thing about not paying taxes and one thing about being audited, but can that lead to criminal tax charges if you don't report these winnings?
If they can prove that it was done fraudulently, yeah. But I have to I'm kind of surprised. You're more likely to be charged criminally in state court in regards to unpaid state sales tax. I got a guy today. I talked to him. He's going to hire me. He owes $364,000 in unpaid sales tax. And, those are criminal because they consider it stealing. Because it was never your money. You were simply collecting that money for the state. And not only that, he is still running a business, and he's already gotten a letter that says you can't sell liquor, you have no sales tax license, and he's still doing it. So he hasn't hired me yet, but we'll see what happens with that. But I have to tell you, at the federal level, and it's somewhat shocking to me, we get people who are under criminal investigation, and I had a guy, and he owed hundreds of thousands of dollars. He flew his accountant in to see me in Ste Genevieve, who prepared his returns. And guess what? The accountant told me he had no documentation for any of the expenses that were listed. So we had no documentation whatsoever. He owes well over $200,000-300,000 to the IRS, and he didn't get charged criminally.
Incredible stuff. What?
Hard,
So like,
it was even hard for me to believe that we were able to do that.
but so listen, if somebody has to gamble, if somebody really just will not listen and they have to gamble, what records should they keep to protect themselves?
Well, they need to sign up with the casino, and then they'll keep a listing of their winnings and their losses. And then they can get that from the casino, and they'll have proof then that they didn't really make any money off of gambling.
So how can someone resolve a tax issue related to gambling? What's the easiest way? Is it to call you, or is there anything else they can do to resolve that tax problem from gambling?
They need to call us. We'll steer them on the straight and narrow. We'll right the ship, and we'll get them back into compliance with the IRS and get a deal worked out that they can afford. And it may be for far less than what they owe the IRS.
And finally, what would be some of your advice though? To somebody out there, like I said, they love to gamble. They that's one of their favorite pastimes. They're not gonna stop, even though they're recommended to stop. What would some of your advice be if they literally just simply can't stop gambling and they don't want to hear you say stop gambling?
Well, I guess we're going to go back to what you said at the outset of this segment or the prior one. You got to have documentation. You got to document all those wins. You got to document all those losses. You have to keep good records, or it's not going to be pretty with the IRS.
Did you ever gamble, Lance Drury?
I used to play cards a little.
What kind of card? What kind of cards you play? you dabbled in?
Yeah.
You
Pitch.
Oh, were you gallivanting in Vegas?
Oh no! You know what? I don't even like Vegas. I go there, but I'm not. I think I'd like.
You're not a fan of Vegas? They're changing it up a little bit, though.
Well, I think I'd like some of the shows at night, and they have a lot of great chefs and restaurants out there. But I have gone out for seminars, all of that. I have not gambled once.
Look at that, Larry Drury. See what I'm saying? You got a tax attorney that's telling you not to gamble, and he does not gamble. Come on now. Thank you so much for the information and for helping all these gamblers out there and letting them know what they need to do with the taxes. Thanks, Lance.
Thank you, Evan.
If you've gambled and you're not sure what to report, do not guess. Visit lancedrurylaw.com for personalized legal guidance before tax season hits. Thank you so much for watching.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.